Welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns. Hello and welcome to Keto Life Support. This is Kim Howerton, and today I'm bringing you a show for our episode number 41. This is a replay of a live Q&A that Dr. Ken Berry and I did. We do these about once a month. You can always get more information on that. I'll put a link in the show notes. But people write in questions on our live stream and we answer them in real time. Please excuse me if I or make a pronunciation mistake on these medical terms as we are reading them live on air. And I didn't have my glasses on. I never have my glasses on. It's always a problem. Anyway, I will find many things to blame that on other than the fact that I grew up in California and we say a lot here, or at least I do. All right. Enough about my excuses. We're ready to dive in. So enjoy us on this trip through people's questions about keto and medical things. So as wide ranging as eye blebs to blood pressure issues to continued blood sugar issues on carnivore and also a mention of Kim's continued obsession with protein. So enjoy this episode with Dr. Berry. Hey guys, we're live here, Kim and Dr. Ken Berry. Hey Ken, how's it going?
Great. Good to talk to you again, Kimmy.
Good to see ya. I am excitedly wearing a sweater that was too small recently.
I'm wearing my Zero Carb Life shirt. You guys know
nice.
Kelly Hogan?
Yeah, I love Kelly Hogan.
She's got a great YouTube channel.
She's been around forever, but she's really kind of coming out of her shell right now, it seems.
Well,
like.
her story is freaking amazing, but I think for a while she was shy about talking about it or something, but man, she ain't shy no more.
It's good. It's good. Hey guys, welcome. We're just getting started, so come on in. I did get some pre-submitted questions, so we're going to start with those, I think.
Yep.
And then if we have time, we'll open up the line to people that are joining us.
Sure.
I learned something today because I can't not Google something. I'm probably going to say this wrong. Chalazion, the I thing.
Yeah, Chalazion.
Yeah. Okay, Chalazion. Right. Yeah. See, like when you only see something written, you're like, I have no idea how to say that.
How many times in your life have you read a word, Kim, and you know exactly what it means, but you have no idea how to pronounce it?
Oh yeah, no. Eric makes fun of me all the time about it because if there's an option to pronounce it right or wrong, I will always go wrong.
I think that's a clue that somebody's an autodidact, because I can remember when I was 8 years old, I was watching TV and they said something about deja vu. And I was like, that's that word. I had no idea. I'd read it, but I didn't know how to pronounce it. And I was like, oh, deja vu. And I practiced it all day, because I was a country boy. I didn't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah. Now, I grew up with parents that went to college, but my dad is from King City, California, which is like if you put Tennessee in the middle of California. Same. Yeah. And so it's a rural kind of farming community. He was in a play once where suddenly like someone walked out on the stage saying, ooh-wee, ooh-wee. And they were like, what? We. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, well, nice to have you here. So anyway, the question about this thing. So it's like a sty, but it's not a sty.
Yeah,
right?
It's a little bit different. There's several different kinds of glands that line your eyelids. And it's a problem with a different kind of gland than just a sty. But you treat it essentially exactly the same as you would a sty, just heat compresses and give it time. Sometimes they have to be lanced and the little core expressed, but very, very often, if you'll keep enough moist heat on it, you won't have to do that.
What I learned today is I've been having these. I always called them sties. Right. But when I looked at the pictures, I was like, no, that's what I get.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. So somebody asked if there was a way to deal with them. She's had them for like months and months. Like it's persisted. It's not going away.
Yeah.
And is there a way to deal with it other than surgically? And I thought, is someone scaring her with the word surgical? Because it's not like what I think of as surgery.
That's right. Yeah, it's and I used to actually do these myself in the office as a family practice, and I was very procedure heavy. I wasn't really afraid to do anything.
Yeah.
But I've expressed many of these things, and we doctors call things surgical because there's a different set of codes for doing things that involve doing things to the patient. So even giving an injection, just a shot in the butt, that's actually a surgical procedure technically. Because you're breaking,
because it breaks the skin.
Right. Yeah. And so that's the CPT code. And I always call those the verbs. The noun is the diagnosis and the verb is what you do about it. So the verb could be just an office visit and that would be a prescription, but the verb could also be a surgical procedure, which is, it's not really surgery unless if she's having them just chronically and recurrently, then an ophthalmologist may have been saying, hey, let's take out that entire area of your eyelid. That would be a true surgical procedure in the vernacular, common vernacular. But what I did was a very minor, technically surgery, but not a big deal.
Sort of a lancing almost.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So she was concerned about the surgery, and then somebody else chimed in that her kid was getting them. And I wanted to say, because I've had probably 15 in my life, like I get them chronically when I'm stressed out. I've had a lot less since I've been keto, but I've also been less stressed out since I've been keto. So I would like to say, unless they're talking about what Dr. Berry is saying, like removing part of your eyelid, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal at all, I promise. But it does not surprise me that you have them way less frequently now. But I do think that there is I don't really want to say a genetic component, but it's basically, it's how many of those glands you have, how close together they are, what the drainage duct looks like. And you could use the analogy, you know how some people are just more apt to get ingrown hairs. It's just their nature, right? If that person goes keto, they're going to have way less frequent and less severe ingrown hairs, right? But they have that propensity to have an ingrown hair if they shave improperly or whatever. And I think chalazions are a lot like that. You're not going to have nearly as many. They're not going to be nearly as huge and severe. But if you have that predisposition for them, you're probably still going to have them from time to time.
Got it. I don't know that it's at all related. And, I just turn these into, let's talk about Kim's medical conditions, these lives. But I get cysts. Like I have polycystic ovarian condition. I had 2 cysts surgically removed from my face when I was a teenager. I had a cyst removed from my lung when I was a child surgically. They all seem vaguely related conceptually.
Yep. Well, and it's all hyperinsulinemia, almost without exception, because as well as I do that insulin has many growth hormone-like properties, right? Yeah. And it also stimulates other things like IGF-1 that are effectively growth hormones. And so you're just more likely when you're hyperinsulinemic to develop a cyst, a lipoma, literally from ovarian cyst to cyst on your gallbladder to cyst on anything. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Makes the surgeons very happy because there's no danger and they get paid to do a verb on you, right? To do a procedure.
Surgery, but I don't have cancer. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully we've come to a close of Kim's surgical endeavors. So we'll see. Question. Someone is concerned they're on carnivore or they've been carnivore like a year. Their glucose never really goes out of the 80 to 120 range, but they're feeling like that's higher than it should be. They have not gotten an A1C, I asked. What do you think about somebody who bounces between 80 and 120?
It's very common for carnivores to do this, and it's very common for people who do extended fasting to have these kinds of blood sugar behaviors. For that kind of person, almost invariably, their morning blood sugar is going to be the highest blood sugar of the day. Right. It's very common. I've yet to see an exception to what I'm about to say. When that person does get us an A1C, it's going to be pristine. It's going to be a gorgeous A1C. My theory, I don't think anybody knows for a fact, but I feel like that the glucose that your liver and your small intestine and your kidneys make through gluconeogenesis, it's actually made three places. I think that glucose is much more utilized and utilizable. I don't think it glycates nearly as much as glucose that comes in inappropriately through our diets. And that's why I've had carnivores be like, dude, I know my A1C is going to be terrible, because he hung out from 100 to 120. That was his range on a CGM. His A1C was 5.3.
Right.
I think when your body makes the glucose, your liver is so wise that it's beyond words how wise the human liver is and how smart it is. If it makes it, you need it. And so it's not going to cause any pathology. Check in with that person after, when they get their A1C, bet you it's under 5.5.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of people, like for me, when I eat carnivore and I go very, very, very low carb, my glucose goes up a teeny bit, but my fasting insulin comes down, which is an indicator that my body is not responding to the glucose as negatively, right? It's like you're healthy.
Right. Yep. The two smartest organs in your body are your liver and your pancreas. When you're eating the proper human diet, they work together in a way that you just can't even imagine how complicated, but also how elegant and beautiful it is. And the fact that your insulin is that low, even though your blood sugar is higher than you want it to be, that is your pancreas saying, Kim, honey, shut up. It's fine.
A question came in about thyroid tests. What are the thyroid tests that everyone should run, at least initially, and then perhaps annually?
Yeah. And especially if you're having fatigue or unexplained weight gain or inability to lose weight, you want to have a TSH, a free T4, a free T3, a reverse T3, a TPO antibody, and a TG antibody. Anybody listening, if you didn't get that, you can go back and listen to this again on the replay. Write those down.
I also have somewhere on my page a list of those. You can just search through everything. And the related question, so say somebody is hypothyroid, right? So they don't produce enough thyroid hormone and they're medicating. Is there a risk of over medicating?
Yeah. And if you take too much thyroid replacement hormone, you will develop what's known as iatrogenic hyperthyroidism, because you've got too much thyroid hormone in your body. Iatrogenic means that it's caused by the doctor. And so if your doctor prescribes you too much, and the symptoms you'll have are palpitations, your heart beating fast, you feel antsy and nervous, you can't sleep good, you're just hot all the time, even regardless of the room temperature. If this only goes on for less than a year before it's caught and corrected, there's really no long-term damage from this.
You'll just feel weird and crummy while it's happening.
Uncomfortable. And fatigue can also be a significant symptom with hyperthyroidism as well as hypothyroidism.
Interesting. You would think it would be the opposite.
And with just a little bit above, it is. You do have a good boost of energy, but if you go too high, you feel like yuck. It's not fun at all to be hyperthyroid. And that's what infuriates me with doctors who think that all you women with hypothyroidism, you're just trying to get,
you just want speed.
You just want speed, and it don't work that way. It's not fun to take too much thyroid replacement hormone. But if a doctor doesn't have hypothyroid, they have no idea what they're talking about. They just think you're trying to lose weight by cheating.
Right. This is why I like to see doctors who either are or their wife is hypothyroid, and also who are 1 point heavy. I prefer people that have had a range of life experience. All right. So if you catch that over medication within a reasonable period of time, there aren't really big risks.
That's right. Yeah. You just lower the dose, and then within days, the symptoms go away and the lab values come right back down within normal range.
Okay. This is a good moment to say, Dr. Berry is a doctor. He's not your doctor. I'm not a doctor at all. So I can't give medical advice, and Dr. Berry is not giving medical advice. So just so you are all reminded, we're on the internet. How the heck could we diagnose anyone? Anyway, the follow-up question I had was, because sometimes I think, like, did I take my thyroid medication this morning? Like, I'll just have a brain blip, and I sometimes worry about taking it again, like No, I don't think I did, but maybe I shouldn't take I'm not going to give myself cardiac arrest.
Yeah, the official guidelines there's actually official guidelines on that.
Oh, yeah?
If
Okay.
you can't remember if you took it or not, you should just wait till the next day.
Okay.
But my common sense guidelines are, if you're pretty damn sure you didn't take it, it's fine to take one. Okay.
All right.
But if you're like, I'm pretty sure I took it, but I'm not 100% sure, then just wait till the next day.
Okay. Nothing bad has ever happened to me skipping one day.
That's right. Nothing bad's going to happen to you if you skip a day. Nothing bad's going to happen to you if you take 2 in one day. Nothing bad's going to happen, but you want to try to take your dose as prescribed.
Good doctor advice. All right. Thank you. Continued high blood pressure after keto for a year. So we know that most cases of high blood pressure are related to hyperinsulinemia, right? But are there some reasons that are not?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, for this person, I would say I want to know what your C-peptide is, of course, because many people who have been doing keto, because you and I know that word has a million different definitions, right?
Right.
Have they normalized their insulin? Because if they haven't, then yeah, they're still going to have high blood pressure until they normalize their hyperinsulinemia. So
right. Somebody might still have a fasting insulin of 1220 after a year.
That's
if
right.
It was 70 to begin with.
That's right. And a lot of people will have a normal A1C and they think that means, oh, I have to have normal insulin. No. You can still have a super high insulin level. And that's the only thing keeping your A1C normal, because you're still eating too many carbs for your personal physiology. So that's by far the most common reason is somebody thinks they're eating keto, but their keto includes 10 cups of salad a day. Too many carbs, right? And so they still have hyperinsulinemia. So get your C-peptide checked, get your fasting insulin checked. If they're both normal, then we're talking about something else. So there are a few people out there who have essential hypertension. They just genetically, for whatever reason, their blood pressure is a little higher. And according to the research, they probably benefit from taking low dose of either an ACE inhibitor like lisinopril, Acupril, Monopril, or one of the ARB medications, okay, like Cozar or Hyzar. Just a low dose, just enough to get it down within normal limits. Now, there is also another thing called secondary causes of hypertension. I've got the notes. I'm going to make a YouTube video about secondary hypertension.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are in this boat. They do keto. They've lost 100 pounds. Their A1C is now normal, but they still have to take 1 or 2 blood pressure pills a day to keep their blood pressure down. And a lot of doctors get lazy. And you've heard the term, Kim, when you hear hoofbeats, you don't think zebras, you think horses. But like a young doctor, they're like, "Ooh, maybe it's a zebra." No, dude, we're in the United States. It's going to be a horse every time you hear hoofbeats. And so, and that's good advice for a young doctor. But the problem is that some doctors apply that universally. So they never even consider zebras. And
they forget that zebras even exist.
That's right. Zebras don't exist. Everything's a horse. And so secondary causes of hypertension get missed. And so this can be an adrenal problem or an adrenal tumor. This can be a renal artery stenosis. There's a list of causes, known causes of secondary hypertension. And so it's not the patient's fault that their doctor is not looking for a zebra, but it is their problem because they're the one whose life's going to be harmed if they continue with this high blood pressure. So as soon as I make that video about secondary hypertension causes, you're going to go to your doctor and you're going to say, "Now, doctor, are you sure I don't have the following things?" And that will help your doctor remember, oh, yeah, there are zebras out there. Maybe
are there ways to test for zebras?
There's tests for zebras, but they're expensive. And, it's an extra step in the diagnostic algorithm. And many doctors especially, are very adverse to checking anything other than the routine stuff unless there's good cause for doing so. But a patient saying, "Are you sure I don't have renal artery stenosis?" If a patient says that, the doctor's going to be like, "Well, oh God, I don't know if you do or not."
Got it. Okay, good. Question was, can Hashimoto's impact blood pressure?
A little bit. Yeah. Thyroid conditions can affect your cholesterol values, your lipid values, your blood sugar values, and your blood pressure. Yeah. All those things can be affected by the thyroid.
Okay. This just came in. Sylvia has a C-peptide of 3, fasting insulin of 4.9. So those
Okay.
two things together would indicate some insulin resistance.
A little bit. Yeah. Those aren't terrible numbers, but yeah.
Right. A1C is 4.9.
Nice. Nice.
Fasting glucose 111.
From those three numbers, we can tell that her pancreas is still putting out a little more insulin than it would like to give her that 4.9. But she's eating low carb enough that her pancreas is not even having to work double duty, maybe 1.2 duty. And that's not a huge deal. Does she still have high blood pressure?
This is a different person. Sorry. New question. Yeah, I think that, not being a doctor, when I look at those numbers, I think her C-peptide and insulin are going to catch up. They're just not there yet.
Exactly. They're the last to come back to normal. Yeah. And even though, and so for somebody like this, they can be misled and think, well, God, with my A1C that low, I maybe need to eat more carbs to get it back up. No. Keep doing what you're doing. And after a year, if your C-peptide and fasting insulin aren't really, truly down to normal, you may need to cut the carbs even a little more. Even if you freaked your doctor out with that A1C, you want a normal C-peptide and fasting insulin.
Right. She asked, should I lower? She's at 20 total carbs right now. And she asked if she should maybe lower it a little bit. And that might be a good idea.
Yeah, I'd probably go to 10 total a day. And that at that point, you're probably going to have all three of those numbers be beautifully normal.
This was a question from Maria in Australia, which also is true of probably Canadians and people in Europe and the UK. There are certain countries where your doctor is less likely to be able to get you a C-peptide and a fasting insulin test. Are there other tests you can use to triangulate insulin resistance from? Like maybe trigs to HDL?
Yeah, you can do some of the ratios, but they're never going to be as good as just checking the damn lab that you need to check. But yeah, that's a good ratio to check. Dr. Bosworth's, her ratio of ketones to blood sugar, that's not a terrible proxy. None of those ratios are going to be very accurate, but they're going to give you a rough indication of how your insulin function is.
Right. But if you saw somebody with I'm sorry, these are going to be American numbers, but the ratio will be the same, people. If you saw somebody with an HDL of 80 and a triglycerides of 40, which is, I guess, a 0.5 ratio, you think they're probably in pretty good insulin shape.
Yep. But we don't know.
I'm just trying to think.
Chances are their insulin's probably pretty close to normal.
Now, they could still be a zebra, but All right. Somebody on carnivore having low folate, should they be concerned?
Yeah, that's really hard to do, but it's possible. Okay. Yeah, it's really hard to imagine. There would almost have to be a genetic issue there, but it is.
Or it's that issue?
Yeah. And also too much alcohol. If you're still
lay off the sauce.
Drinking, that can cause you to have a low folate or folic acid level.
Okay. So if you saw somebody who was carnivore who had a persistent low folic acid level, you would suggest that they might look for a hormonal.
We talk about alcohol, and we would do some genetic testing to see if they had a gene defect or something that just caused them to need supplementation, because the average person, if they're eating carnivore, they're going to be getting enough folate.
Okay. I know that I was B12 deficient even on a very heavy meat. Maria says she doesn't drink. Okay, she's a folate person. So even on a very meat heavy diet, it wasn't until I went fully carnivore that I fixed the B12 issue, which has persisted to be good now, which I think was gut junction related. Like if you have, people call it leaky gut. Leaky gut's I don't love the term, but I do think that you can have loose junctions and issues with absorption issues. And then some of those vitamins you're not getting, right?
100%. And then also, I don't discount Dr. Paul Saladino's theories that certain phytochemicals in plants will limit your ability to absorb vitamins and minerals. That's 100% true. And so it could be that even though you were eating meat heavy, one vegetable that is probably that damn lettuce wedge is probably what it was, because I know you used to love them.
I love those things.
That was limiting your ability to absorb the B12 that was in the meat that you were getting plenty in your diet. You just weren't able to absorb it. And that's why when you went full carnivore, all of a sudden you were able to absorb that and your B12 was fine.
Okay, got it. Let's see. Nancy, who we love, you'll know Nancy if you saw her pop up. She had a recurrence of her breast cancer. So we're so sorry to hear that, Nancy. But she's worried about what
Nancy, I met her. We met her.
Yeah. Dark hair.
Yep.
Yeah. She's worried she has to take glucose for a PET scan. And she's like, will that screw me up? Should I be worried about it? I don't
for a day or two. I mean, it's going to spike your blood sugar for a day or two. It's not a big deal. You need the PET scan. Yeah. And really, I do think there are a lot of advantages that are not just theoretical, but have been shown, right, for breast cancer outcomes with staying keto. 100%. Yeah. And Nancy, I love you to death. I'm sorry this happened to you. But this is just a great example of no matter if you're eating a perfect, proper human diet, we're still human. Bad things are still going to happen to us eventually. And bad things happen to good people like Nancy sometimes. And definitely keto did not cause this. But if you were my sister, Nancy, you are my keto sister. I would tell you, honey, you 100% need to, as you go through the treatment and the surgery if needed, you need to be 100% keto. And then for the rest of your life, keto is the way for you. Because anytime you have one cancer, you're at increased risk of having other cancers, right? It's just like autoimmune conditions. And so you don't want to do anything to feed that cancer any extra sugar. And you also don't want to have extra blood glucose in your system to encourage any other cancers to grow in the future.
Right. But don't stress out about the PET scan.
No, don't stress. No, consider this medicinal glucose. Doctor ordered glucose. You can't do anything about it.
Alana says she gets heart palpitations after eating fatty meat.
Yep. So a lot of people do this, or they'll get the meat sweats after they eat meat. And I think that for some people, for everybody, eating a meat-heavy diet is going to raise your metabolic rate. That's one of the reasons we do this, because it moves all your hormones in the right direction to allow you to have a faster metabolism. But some people, and it's usually women, in my experience, their metabolism just goes crazy, not in a dangerous or bad way, but like their heart's beating 100 times a minute and they're sweating bullets. And it's like, God, I'm burning up. What's going on here? And it's like that your body's just like it's been let out of the cage, like, holy hell, let's go play. And your metabolism just really spikes up after you eat that meat-heavy diet.
All right. She says she's carnivore, eats fish once a week, wondering if that's enough iodine.
I would go for 2 or 3 times a week, or get some Lugol's drops, or get the Keto Chow mineral drops, which also have iodine. I don't think you can eat too much seafood. I'm a big fan of it. Some carnivores are anti-seafood, but why, hello, baby Beckett.
Bye, baby Beckett. You're so cute. He breaks my heart. I see his pictures and I'm like, how is he getting so big?
He's growing fast, no doubt.
Yeah. Arterial disease. Peter would like to know, is this reversible?
To a certain degree, yes. Arterial disease is a huge, wide open space for research. I think that the root causes of arterial disease obviously are diet and smoking, but there's 2 things that are completely ignored by arterial specialists, and that's the glycocalyx, hugely important, very often overlooked, and then the vasa vasorum, which is a tiny net of little tiny arterioles and blood vessels that actually feed the larger arteries from the outside in. Most vascular specialists, all they want to do is just slash and burn and put in stents, and they don't want to talk about any of that stuff. But yeah, I think to a certain degree, and I think we've seen this in the numerous people who have had coronary artery calcium scores, and then they do a year of keto or carnivore. They repeat the test, and then
is that the widening of the arteries?
Yeah, and so that shows that the arterial wall is healing, and the body's very smart. It knows that calcium shouldn't be there, but it can't remove it too quickly, and that'll cause a problem. And so over the course of that year, if you're eating properly, you actually decrease that calcium score. The same goes for cholesterol plaquing. All that stuff gets slowly but surely better if you're eating a proper human diet.
All right. He says that he's taking isosorbide dinitrate.
Yeah, and that's to keep his heart from beating too strongly and to keep his blood pressure down. Does he have a widening or like an aneurysmal? Does he say?
No, he's on here. Peter, you can respond. He said he had to reduce his dose of that because it was giving him a headache.
Oh, yeah.
He said he stopped taking his beta blocker, Nexium, blood pressure pill, statin, daily dose of aspirin, and a nitro patch because he's been keto 2 years and those are all improved. Yep. But he's hoping to return.
Get better over time. And it's just like anything, Kim, up to a certain point, right? And so if you've had a heart attack, that heart tissue is going to regenerate and get better and better, but you're always going to have a little scar there, right? Just like the scar from my knee surgery 30 years ago. The scar, you have to look to see if there's a scar there now.
I've never noticed it. I've seen you in shorts a ton of times.
It's been 30 years of my body being able to deal with that, plus the years of fasting and keto and carnivore. The scar is just barely noticeable, but there will always be a scar there. There will always be some residual damage. So I don't want to give people false hope that you literally are going to be back 100% like that never happened, but it will improve. Just like COPD in the lungs. If you're a smoker smoking 2 packs a day and you literally have to pull an oxygen tank around. After you've quit smoking, after you've gone keto, within a year, you're not going to need that oxygen tank. Are your lungs going to be back to the lungs of a 20-year-old? No. But they are going to be so much healthier and they're going to heal so much if you just stop poisoning and assaulting them. And that goes for every body part.
Right. We had someone, I forgot their name because it passed a while ago. They said they've been keto for 2 months. They've only lost 6 pounds and they're going to give up. And I would like to say, did you lose 6 pounds in the 2 months before you started keto? Is the question I would ask.
Yeah. So they've been keto for 2 months. And so the average person gains a pound every 2 months. And so you also didn't do that. So I feel like that's a victory and a success. And congratulations on not only your weight loss, but on your weight maintenance. I would continue keto if I were you.
Right. I think I got this from Mike Berta. I just stole it, so I'll just continue to use it, which is that a weight loss stall is just involuntary maintenance.
That's right.
And
win. Yeah.
And since most people are gaining a pound a month, I think the average is like 10 pounds a year, right? So you're still, by staying in one place, you're moving forward.
100% agree. It is normal for anyone 40 or older to gain 5 to 10 pounds a year. That's normal. And so if you didn't do that, if you literally stalled for a year as a 45, 50, 55-year-old, that's a huge victory because that means you did not gain that 7 pounds that you were going to gain if you were eating the old way. How's that not a victory? And I understand, I get it. People want the damn scale to go to where they want it to go. I get that. But you also got to think about this big picture thing here. The average man or woman older than 40, they're going to gain 3 to 10 pounds a year every single year. If you didn't do that, congratulations.
Win. Right.
Win.
All right. Staying keto during and after surgery. I'm just like, yes.
100%. And then also, if you want to do any fasting right after surgery, I'm 100% for that, with the caveat that when you do eat, make sure you eat plenty of protein because your body's got to have that protein to heal. But there's no reason not to continue with your intermittent daily fasting and your keto or carnivore diet. Those are the things that are going to help you heal the fastest, heal completely, and hopefully never have to fool with this again.
Right. And I just think it's probably a good idea on your eating days to bump up your protein even more post-surgery because of that need. Like every cell in your body that's regenerating needs some protein.
100%. And some people will recommend extended fasting post-surgery. I don't recommend that, but I do 100% recommend you continue your intermittent daily fast of 16, 18, 20 hours a day. But Kim's exactly right. When you do break your fast, you eat like you mean it, and you make sure that you hit or exceed your protein macro.
Right. That's also a good time to concentrate on getting some good cartilage in your diet as well. That 100%. Collagen is helpful.
100%. Yeah. Bone broth, eat your gristle, eat the cartilage off the end of the bones, eat your sardines with the bones in. That stuff will help you heal almost magically.
Right. I have had enough surgeries in my life now that I feel like an expert on surgery recovery. So
Yep.
yes, there you go. Let's go for I feel like I'm on a game show. Histamine intolerance. What is this thing?
So our body puts off every day a certain amount of histamines. And some people, it seems like they have a worse reaction than other people. And it varies person to person. For some people, this is a problem. Some people, they barely notice it at all. Do they go into their symptoms or more details?
Let's see. I'm curious if I have histamine or maybe mast cell activation syndrome.
Yep.
Was keto switched to carnivore, then there was an oxalate dumping issue, so there were symptoms. I'm assuming now I'm dealing with HI or mast cell activation.
Yep.
Wondering what to do.
Yeah, and it could be that there's still a particular food in your diet that's causing the mast cells to freak out. And that's one of the beautiful things about keto and carnivores. You can experiment. And so if I were you, I would practice a little intuitive eating and just ask yourself, what do you think it is? Is it the shrimp? Do you think it's the duck? Do you think it's the eggs, maybe egg whites? Maybe that would probably be my guess. And just cut that out of your diet for a month and see if your reactions calm down. And once you have found the offending culprit, then you can just keep that out of your diet or minimize it.
Right. And some of the carnivore culprits for histamine intolerance are bone broth and aged meats, right?
Yep. Aged meat and egg whites. That would be the two
And egg whites.
that I would.
Okay.
Those would be my two first trials of let's cut that out for a month and see what happens.
Okay. And so with histamine intolerance and that sort of thing, it's really about an elimination diet and then going an appropriate period of time and potentially looking at reintroduction, right?
Yep, exactly. And then the third thing would be dairy. That would be
right.
my experiment until I found out what it was. And you might be able to do an elimination diet and then reintroduce it without problems, but some people just have to say no dairy ever or no egg whites ever. And there's still hundreds of choices on carnivore.
Okay. So the related last question I had from ahead of time was, how do people know if they have food intolerances?
Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it's very, very hard to figure out. By eliminating all of the hundreds of crap foods by converting to keto or carnivore, for most people, that just solves the problem. And so they literally never know which one of the crap foods was the real offender that really flared them up. But
right.
In the end, do you really care? If you're never going back, who cares what it was? You got it out of your system and you're done. But when you're keto or carnivore, you have so much better feedback with your body. And so then you can start playing around and doing these experiments like Kim and I do, where we're like, I think I'm just going to stop all green vegetables for a month. Now I'm going to stop all cheese for a month. And you will learn so much about your body and how it functions and things that you didn't even know you reacted to. You'll detect it and be like, oh, okay, I did not know that, but now I do. And then you get to make a choice. Is it worth whatever reaction you're having in order to eat that? Or is it just not worth it? And for me, I freaking love cheese. But if I eat cheese too often, I will start to get a little rash, and I will start to get a little bloaty in the middle, and I will start to the scale will start not talking nice again. And so
this is where Dr. Berry's vanity wins.
That's right. And I'm like, I love cheese. I don't love it that much. And so cheese has become just an occasional dessert for me. That's how I have to do cheese, or I would still have a little gut and I would still have to use a little hydrocortisone on my little rash. And I'd rather not have to do all that stuff, because I think not only are those things an inconvenience, but also if I'm inflaming that little patch of skin,
what else is going on?
What else am I inflaming that I don't have feedback on? Am I inflaming the lining of my jejunum in my gut, but I just can't get feedback on that? Am I inflaming my astrocytes in my brain? And so my personal philosophy is, if it inflames anything, then it potentially is inflaming everything.
Right. Good philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that if I look back on my pre-keto experience, I had a stomach ache every day, like every day.
Yep.
At some point, I was like, and then that goes away. And literally, I don't know if you remember, I texted you when my appendix was acting up, and I texted you, where is the appendix? Because
Right.
I literally was like, this is the first stomach ache I have had in years.
Yep.
Something must be really wrong.
Yep. And that's a great example of how keto allows you the ability to hear your body. Because 20 years ago, you would have just thought, oh, I've got a stomach ache. I have them all
Yes.
the time. No big deal. And you'd have probably sat home and died with appendicitis when it ruptured. But now on keto, you're like, something ain't right because this never happens anymore. What's going on? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When you get used to feeling awful, nothing is notable. But when you get used to feeling good, everything is.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Maria said she's lost, 130 pounds this year. PCOS, hypothyroidism. Yeah, that's so good. Glucose is 4.7. Her doctor, these are in European numbers. So I don't know if you have those. Total cholesterol, 8.2, triglycerides, 1.1, HDL, 0.88, LDL, 7.32, which I think is fairly high.
Yeah.
So her doctor told her to stop keto and stop fasting, and this person also smokes.
Yeah, but they didn't tell them to stop smoking.
I don't know, but they lost 130 pounds.
Yeah,
in 12 months.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's such a great success story.
Yeah, I would say look in cholesterolcode.com or look for the Facebook group called Cholesterol Code. They have good answers.
Yes, and also watch a lot of videos by Dr. David Diamond. He will help you understand why cholesterol is not a big deal. And maybe send a link to your doctor.
Right. Phyllis gets bad foot cramps. She takes magnesium every day. She uses Redmond's Real Light. She's 95% carnivore. What is she missing?
So there's several things that she might be missing. She might just need more salt. She might just need more magnesium or more potassium. And Relight has both in it, but she might just need more. So I don't know if she's played around with doses. The serving size on Relight or on any electrolyte is a suggestion. You can, if you're still having cramps, you can double that. The serving size is no danger. Okay. If that doesn't fix it, then it's time to go see your doctor, because sometimes you can have blockages in arteries in your leg, in your calf, in your foot from your indiscretions of the past. And remember, arteries do get better, but they do it very slowly, like we talked about earlier. And you may still have an 80% blockage in an artery in your lower leg or in your foot, and that can cause cramps. And so when you're walking around during the day, I bet you don't have cramps. I bet it's only when your feet are elevated at night. And think about the blood pressure. When you're walking, your feet are dependent, so the pressure is very high. And so if you've got an 80% blockage, the blood can still get through. But when you throw those legs up into bed at night, you just lowered your effective blood pressure in your feet. And for many people with a partial arterial blockage, that's just a little bit of change where the muscle's not getting enough oxygen, and it complains about that. And the way it complains is to cramp up.
Right. And one thing I like as an analogy, I used to use a tree, but now I use my arm. So I think of electrolytes like sodium is your arm and the rest of them are your fingers. Yep. If you don't have an arm, your fingers don't do you a lot of good.
That's exactly right. You got to have the salt. Yep.
Yeah. So Diana says insomnia at night, had a full hysterectomy due to ovarian cancer, doesn't take hormones, desperate for a full night's sleep.
Yeah, it's probably the hormones. You could definitely try some melatonin. You could definitely try some GABA. You could try, there's multiple other things you could try. A good dose of magnesium at bedtime, but not enough to make you have diarrhea, would be a good try. But ultimately, from your history, it's probably going to be those hormones. You need to get them optimized, especially the progesterone, and then secondarily the testosterone, because they will help you sleep like a baby.
Right. I hear that over and over again, that testosterone and progesterone issue.
100%. Yeah. Progesterone is just like a sleeping pill, and you'll get it bioidentically compounded, but it'll be a capsule. Take that at bedtime, 1 or 2, whatever the doctor tells you, and you will sleep like you did 20 years ago.
Yeah. I recently experimented with a new supplement. Have you heard of it? It's Kirk Parsley's. It's a sleep supplement. It's got like L-tryptophan and a little bit of melatonin. And he's a doctor who used to be a Navy SEAL.
So it's got all the things that have research behind them that help you sleep. It's kind of a conglomeration. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So I just tried it last month, and I think that thing works.
Yeah.
I've been sleeping less well recently, not because of anything health related. I'm sleeping with my window open because it was really hot and it's noisy. And so the noise, so it's like, it's understandable what's going on. But taking those, I was like, the noise didn't wake me up this morning. So yeah.
Nice. Share a link.
Yeah, I will put up a link, everybody. I contacted them to get a discount for people, so I haven't gotten that yet. So I haven't shared it yet, but I will share a link. Jen says, recommendation for dealing with hot flashes.
Same. Yeah. And so hot flashes are almost 100% of the time hormone related. Okay. And it's almost always for women, the estrogen progesterone ratio and the testosterone estrogen ratio. Sometimes it can be adrenal hormones, but it's virtually always the ovarian hormones is what it is.
Okay.
And depending on your age, you're either perimenopausal or in menopause. If it is really affecting your life, you're going to have to get your hormones optimized with bioidentical hormones in order to calm that down.
Yeah. Hot flashes are no joke. My mom put in air conditioning into her house just she was like, screw this, getting air conditioning.
Yep.
All right. Mary says that she has had headaches for the last 2 months. She's wondering if it might be pecans.
Maybe pecans.
Are you
I know
eating a lot of pecans?
You could do is just not eat pecans for a month and see what the headache does. My guess would be the most likely culprit is you're not eating enough salt. And then so try adding more salt. If that fixes it, great. If not, then eliminate those pecans for a month. If that doesn't fix it and you're having a headache every day, especially if you're waking up with a headache, then you need to go see your doctor. If you're getting a headache, if the headache starts in the afternoon, you need to go see your eye doctor. But if you wake up with a headache every day, you need to go see your doctor.
Okay. A lot of people do, I think, wake up with a headache every day.
Yeah. And that's not 100% indication that something's bad wrong, but that can be a symptom that you have something growing inside of your calvarium that should not be there. And anytime some people wake up with a headache, that's worrisome until proven to be benign.
Got it. Okay. Karen says, trying to lose weight. Of course, my husband has. Can menopause slow weight loss?
100%. Yeah. It can slow it down to almost a stop. And so many women who are menopausal are doing keto right, but they're just maintaining, or they're losing a pound every 3 months or something. And that's all hormones. And so you're faced with the choice. Is this affecting my life enough? Do I want to kill my husband enough that I would go and investigate bioidentical hormone replacement? Because once you get your progesterone and your testosterone optimized, you're still not going to lose weight as fast as him. I'm sorry. It's not fair, but that's how it is. But you are going to lose fat much, much faster than you currently are. But that doesn't mean you have to do that. That's just an option.
Right. You can just take comfort in the fact you'll probably live longer than he will.
That's right. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of bioidentical hormones, but that doesn't mean I'm an advocate. A lot of people get that confused. I'm 100% safe and fine. But if you say, no, damn it, menopause is a normal physiological process, why would I dick around with that? I'm like, no, I get that argument. Just don't do it then. That's fine. But then you also don't get to complain about whatever side effects you have. You got to pick. Right. Either fix it or don't complain.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Betsy says sleep apnea also a cause for waking up with headaches. Also a good reason to go to a doctor.
100%. It's still, you need to go to your doctor. That's exactly right. Yep. Because you could be building up carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide causing that headache. And but still the recommendation of go see your doctor is ultimately going to lead, if it's a good doctor, blah, blah, blah. But then ultimately it's going to lead to discovering what's causing that headache.
Got it. So Wendy says that she's heard that keto can actually make female issues worse at first due to hormone dumping in fat. What do you think of this idea that we store hormones in our body fat?
Yeah, that is somewhat true. There's also probably a tiny grain of truth in the theory that we store toxins in our adipose tissue, and so as you lose the fat, you can have oxalate dumping, you can have heavy metal dumping. There probably is a grain of truth to that. It's not a lot. It's not like you're going to have mercury poisoning if you lose weight too fast. I don't believe in any of that. I don't think you need chelation therapy if you're losing weight fast. I think you definitely adipose tissue is an endocrine tissue. It both produces and stores hormones. There's no doubt about that. And so you initially you might have some weird fluctuations in your hormone levels, but ultimately the vast majority of feedback from women who are strong keto is my menopausal symptoms, my hormonal symptoms are 70 to 95% better on keto. Is that the feedback you get?
I think that if you look at it like the issues that you might be getting from the body fat dumping and that might be moving in one way, while at the same time the improvement in hormone levels are moving in the other way. So I would say it's probably for almost everybody a net win,
still
even
win.
Short term.
Exactly.
Still a net win. There's always outliers, and so I think there's probably cases where the hormones take a little longer to start to improve. And so they're not keeping pace with each other in terms of benefits and negatives. Right. And so I think that could happen.
I 100% agree. And it's important to say this, I found that's never dangerous. Okay. Because people are not doctors, Kim. And so they're like, oh my God, I'm going to dump hormones. What? So I think Kim's explained it exactly right. It's still a net win. It is always safer to lose unnecessary fat, even if you have hormone dumping, even if you have oxalate dumping, even if you have heavy metal dumping. It's in the long run, it is still healthier for you to lose the weight. And that dumping might cause temporary minor symptoms, but it is never dangerous.
Right. And there are things you can do that are not hard, right? Like eating plenty of protein actually is beneficial here because it helps with, I think, your glutathione levels, which is your body's natural antioxidant pathway. So I've been on a little bit of a protein kick recently, Dr. Berry. I don't know if you've noticed.
I know. Where'd you get it?
I'm like, protein!
Protein, that's the magic stuff.
I know. I've noticed there's a level. If my protein grams are like 120 or less, I don't notice anything weird. I just enjoy my life. When I go to like 140 to 160 in the protein grams, I'm hot, very hot. I thought people were kidding about this thing. And now I'm like, okay, I get it now.
Nope. Yeah, it's a real deal.
Should you aim for that effect? Is that telling you something good, or is it just a party trick?
Well, if what we think is true, namely that is your metabolic rate increasing, then if you were morbidly obese and you wanted to lose weight as quickly as possible, then I think Ted Naiman is exactly right. For a certain subsection of people, you should pile on the protein, mucho, and then fill with fat and avoid the carbs. And so in other words, a high protein, moderate fat diet for some people works like magic. You lose weight crazy fast. Other people, it seems the reverse is true. But I think it's worth a try for everybody, especially if you're stalled out. Then I think Kim's high protein experiment would be a completely rational thing for you to try for a month. But what else could make you have those hot flashes and sweats, Kim, except that your body?
Well, that or menopause, but I've had my hormones checked and it's not menopause.
Yeah, but basically your body's because protein is the macro of ultimate nutrition, right? And so if you're getting that much protein, your body, like the lizard part of your brain, the brainstem, knows there is food everywhere. If we're getting this much protein, let's just crank this metabolic rate. We don't have to conserve. We don't have to store fat. We're just going to burn because there's obviously food everywhere if we're getting this much protein in our diet.
Totally. I do think also I can sort of look at where I find this with my clients, right? Like depending on where their insulin resistance level is, seems to correlate with how well they respond to crazy high levels of protein.
Yep.
And I have not yet done a, IRB approved study on the topic, but anecdotally, I kind of see that that if people are like incredibly insulin resistant, they do better on high fat. And if they're fairly insulin resistant yet fluffier than they'd like to be, they probably do better on higher protein.
Yep. That's been my non-randomized control trial experience as well.
Yeah. And so that's it's interesting in the whole scheme of things to look at what these differences are, because so many people like to say it's one thing and one thing only. And that looks to be, it's very case dependent.
It is within certain limits. I totally agree.
Yeah. One of the things I was looking at today was, and then we're about to close up, is exercise and glucose disposal, because I have several clients right now who have persistent high blood sugars and they're basically carnivore, right?
Yeah.
Like we can't seem to get their blood sugars under 130. Which is not like red bell danger, call the ambulance emergency level, but it's higher than you want a persistent blood sugar to be.
Yep.
Do you think that's the point at which you look for either a hormonal or adrenal issue, or might it be under muscle? Like the fact that they have very low muscle, so their body's not doing proper glucose disposal. What do you look for there?
It could be any of those things. And so especially if they're very under muscled, and so they have kind of sarcopenia, whether they're obese or whether they're very thin, if they just don't have a big enough muscle mass in their body, they just don't have as many places for the glucose to go. Yeah. And then also I think there's a big component of this is that they're still metabolically ill. They probably still have elevated C-peptide. And that whole thing, which you and I know, it doesn't just fix itself in a linear fashion. It's very much this up and down thing. And what I've noticed in carnivores especially is that they'll do that for a month to 6 months, and then all of a sudden it's almost like somebody shifted gears, and then they'll run about 120, and that'll be their new thing. And then they'll do that for 1 to 6 months, and then it'll be 110. And so it's almost like as their metabolism heals and everything's going back to normal. Almost like with weight loss, you know how you'll stall for a while because your body freaks out, and then it's like, okay, everything's okay.
Yeah.
For somebody's whose blood sugar's been over 200 for decades, their body's gotten used to that. And those kind of people, if their blood sugar was 70, they would have every symptom of hypoglycemia. They would feel like they're going to die because their body's not used to that. And so I think that the body has to down-regulate certain things and up-regulate other things, and that comes in waves, and it takes time. And so they're still healing, even though it seems like their blood sugar's plateaued there. I've seen that after a certain number of months, it'll shift down and it'll be better. And I think it just takes time.
Yeah. And I do think that these people it is true of everybody, but more than any other type of person, it is crucial and essential that they not, quote unquote, fall off the wagon.
100%.
Because their body needs a long period of good to let go.
Yep. Agree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, this was so much fun.
Yes.
And we even got to see Baby B.
That's right.
So I will look forward to next month when we do this again.
Yes, me too. And you'll be collecting questions for us.
I will collect questions again, and we'll hit adiponectin next time because that one's a hard one.
Yeah.
And sounds good. And if you guys don't know, because you've been living under a rock, Dr. B does a live every Monday on his channel. So go check that out on Mondays.
Yep. On YouTube and Facebook, both now.
Oh, you got them both going. All right.
We're both going now. We use StreamYard like this. So every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central, we're live on Facebook and YouTube.
All right. Well, check it out, people. And we will be back. I'll be back next week. So I'll see you then.
Thank you so much, Kimmy. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes?
Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write like a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you. All right. So thanks so much for joining